is a perfect lead into the next question. And it comes through a 2022 NACD Summit Talent Oversight paper. And one of the myths, called it a myth, is finding diverse talent with the right skills is too hard and not under board purview. Comments on that? Open for anyone.
I think this goes back to some of the challenges that a lot of companies are facing, right? A lot of companies are now starting to report diversity data broadly across their organization. EEO1 reporting their own version of that data. And when you look at across an organization broadly, a lot of companies are doing a really good job at bringing in, an in aggregate diverse workforce. But a lot of companies have a problem in the middle that they don't want to talk about, which is promotion and retention rates among certain diverse populations when you get to that mid to senior level rank in the organization. BlackRock has the same issue. I promoted a woman on my team this year who is a woman of color to managing director, which is a senior rank in the banking financial services side. She came to me after that and said, in the 30-year history of BlackRock, she was the 13th woman of color, to ever be promoted to MD. We have lots of people of color, women of color MDs, but most of them are brought in laterally, not promoted from within. And I don't think we're unique. I think a lot of companies face the same challenge. Different companies face different challenges aligned like that, but it's something that we should talk about and figure out how to solve. Where are we failing in our own internal systems to bring those populations along with the rest of everyone through the promotion cycles up and prepare them for senior level roles, prepare them to be directors 10, 15, 20 years from now. That system feels like it's not working well at a lot of companies. It's not a unique problem.
Can I just jump in and build on that for a minute? The next iteration of being transparent about data in that space is sharing promotion data publicly. It may surprise you to learn that a couple companies that are doing that, are leading the way in that, are Consolidated Edison of New York, an old, over 100-year-old utility is actually sharing its promotion data, and Walmart, who's doing that as well. We tend to think in terms of 7 metrics we're pushing towards using, and some of those becoming more transparent. You spoke about attrition. So attrition, performance ratings, obviously can't be transparent about that, but something to look at and be aware of. Promotions, your leadership pipeline, which includes both your future leader pool and your succession plan. Your employment pipeline, which a lot of people I think are sharing more transparently now. The last 2 are pay equity, which some organizations share publicly and make adjustments to. And the last would be inclusion metrics. So there are a number of metrics beyond, to your point, John, beyond just representation of demographics that organizations should be looking at, and directors can lean into and say, hey, are you looking at this stuff too, or are you just stopping at representation or employment or hiring rates?
Yeah, and we love it when we see that data from the outside. We know that not all companies are comfortable sharing it. It's concerning how few boards actually have that data at their fingertips and know what's going on at that level of detail. The board has to carefully consider its role, right? They're not the HR manager, they're not the CHRO of the company, but they are in charge of overseeing the risk. And, in aggregate, looking at some of this data, I think is helpful in overseeing those risks. I really appreciate those comments.
And I think understanding what diversity means for your organization is important. When I was a CEO, we had 1,200 stores. And the challenge for us was, let's make sure that our stores represent the communities that they're in. So that if somebody comes in a Hispanic neighborhood, people in that store should be people who speak Spanish and people who are of the neighborhood, and we're going to do more business. And it absolutely, absolutely works. So if you're in Provo, Utah, it may be something different than that. But understanding the communities that you serve and having the workforce as being representative then it doesn't become difficult because those people are already in that community. The difficult part is making sure that you have the right hiring practices, get to the right people, but it really isn't that hard. And then making sure that your pay practices and your promotion practices are equitable across the organization so that you do have those leadership ladders that people can climb up and get to those higher level positions. One of the interesting things about turnover that I love to look at is you look at an average turnover number, and as a board, we tend to say, what are the things that are going wrong? Who are the outliers? If our turnover is 30%, who are the people at 40 and 45? I love to look at the ones who are at 5 and 10% turnover and spend all my time understanding for the people who are getting it right, what are they doing? What are the systems, processes, and skills? And are those things translatable across the organization to other places? And normally it comes down to the quality of the person who's running that division or running that store or running that operation, and being able to understand who those people are, what their skills and capabilities are, and hiring those across the system makes a huge difference.
I think the key, though, to all of that is having, John, you made a comment about they're not at the fingertips. I think sometimes they're not in the meeting at all, right? And I think that part of it is getting comfortable to put people metrics, whatever they may be, whether they're about pay equity, whether they're about diversity turnover, whether about the diversity hiring, whether it's in general, where are we getting people, whatever the metric that's most important for your business, to be part of the metrics that are just reviewed as normal business metrics, much like we might review the financials. But I think many times that it's just not even in the conversation, which is why it's not at the fingertips.
So I feel like we ought to address what to me is an elephant in the room. And that is, for the time being, in some places, not all, DEI and even ESG is being dished or downplayed. Now, as corporations, have we gone far enough down that journey that we're going to continue it? Or do you think some of the geopolitical backlash on those subjects could hurt our efforts?
So I'm happy to offer a point of view. I think it starts with organizations having an understanding of what's right and what's wrong. Mm-hmm. And those things should not be governed by or legislated by an external force. What is the right thing to do for your organization? If the world has changed and more women are going to college than men, more women are entering the workforce, shouldn't you have the ability to have access to that group? Because women on boards was a really big thing a few years ago, and it's died out as a leading topic. DEI was a big thing post George Floyd. It's died out as a leading topic. ESG, human capital management, is on the front of the dashboard today. All of those things are still important. None of those things go away. And it's, our responsibility is to be able to, there's a definition, the definition of an agile mind is to be able to handle two conflicting thoughts in your mind without going crazy. As a board member, I think we have to be able to handle many conflicting issues and think about, is this the kind of company that I would want my 16-year-old to work for? And do they have the kind of culture? Do they have the kind of dynamics? And all companies don't fit all people, but I don't think any of those things should go away. If you're running a well-run company, you're doing the right things, and you're not doing those right things because they're legislated, governed, or because an institutional investor is telling you what to do. You're doing them because you understand you have a role in the community, and that you want to run a good company, and it incorporates all of those things.
Thank you, Theo. I think that's very insightful. And it reminds me of a saying I heard long ago, and I've used it many times. And it's, well, we can do this or we can do that. And the answer is, it's an and world. It's not an or, it's an and. And I think you summarized that very well, that we've got to do all these things and continue to do them.